And I'll yield myself 5 minutes for questions. I think we've come to an agreement on at least one point, and that is that our immigration laws are broken. The Democrats think they're broken because they don't stop presidents like Trump from securing our borders. The Republicans think they're broken because they don't stop presidents like Biden from opening our borders. I think the most illuminating testimony that we've had today came from the Democrats' witness, who opined that the enforcement of our immigration laws was vastly better under Biden than it is under Trump. That is a difference of opinion that we periodically resolve through our elections. And from the last election, it is very clear that the American people agree with us, and they have given us the responsibility and the authority to change these laws so that they can never again be evaded and mocked by a future Democratic administration. Ms. Vaughn, I want to begin with the abuse of our asylum process, which I think is one of the biggest problems that we face. We all know the vast majority of asylum claims turn out to be bogus, but under the Biden administration, just making that claim got you immediate admittance into our country, a lot of free stuff. You were assured that your claim wouldn't be heard for many years, and once it was rejected and you were ordered by a court deported, that order wouldn't be enforced. Obviously, Remain in Mexico took a lot of the incentive out of making these false claims, and of course, one of President Trump's first orders reinstates that policy. But it seems to me we need to assure the permanence of that policy, and we also need to be clear that asylum is reserved for those who've been singled out by their own government for persecution because of their religion, race, or political views. And under international law, once you have crossed that first international border, you have now separated yourself from that government. You have the right to apply for asylum in that country that you first crossed into. You do not have the right to pass through 5 other countries because you want free stuff from Americans. And it also seems to me that if you break our laws to enter our country, you should forfeit any claim to asylum because you've already expressed your intention to disobey our laws. What do we need to do to reinstate these principles and assure that future presidents can't circumvent them?
Well, the asylum system is one of the biggest loopholes in our immigration law right now that's routinely exploited. That's why we need legislation to actually codify provisions to address the problems that you've mentioned. For example, to make it clear that you must enter through a legal port of entry, that you're not going to qualify for asylum if you've passed through a safe third country, or if you could have relocated within your own country. We're getting a lot of people at our border now who've been firmly resettled in other countries before coming here to take advantage of the open border and the parole policies.
So are those principles missing from our current asylum law and we need to place them in it, or are they simply being ignored?
They are really, the clarification is missing. I think that there are different ways you could interpret our law, but they're not going to be as effective. We need H.R. 2 closed a lot of those loopholes.
Your guidance on what else needs to be done to assure that this doesn't happen again would be much appreciated. Mr. Fabricatore, the sanctuary policies, what do those laws do exactly?
They don't protect American citizens. They protect criminal aliens. And we've seen that happen in the U.S. with the rise of Tren de Aragua in these sanctuary cities.
Well, in fact, it's the immigrant community from which they arise that is the most victimized by them, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
I think that a family at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York is far more likely to be preyed upon by these cartels and criminal gangs than somebody living in Scarsdale, for example.
Initially, they prey on their own, sir, yes.
So what can we do about these sanctuary jurisdictions?
Well, we need to look at any kind of defunding that we can do. And look, we need to make sure that ICE is going into these communities and they can work with local law enforcement. If we're really serious about keeping American citizens safe, we have to be serious about letting law enforcement work together to keep American citizens safe. And that's not going to happen as long as we have these sanctuary jurisdictions that don't allow local law enforcement to give information to ICE. sanctuary jurisdiction in Colorado, probation cannot even let ICE know when somebody gets taken out of jail and put on probation. So that's someone that's convicted of a crime that's going out onto the street, and that probation officer cannot let ICE know when they're going on probation.
Mr. Newman, my time's about to expire, but I would like to ask you to put in a response regarding the TPS and parole abuses of the past administration and what we can do to assure that that's never done again. But I am now out of time, so if you could give that to us in writing, we will pay very close attention to it. With that, I believe we are ready to conclude today's hearing. I want to thank our witnesses for appearing. I think this was a very illuminating hearing on both sides. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days to submit additional written questions for the witnesses or additional material for the record. And with that, and without objection, the hearing is adjourned.